Hello, I'm Madeline from Sheen Slings and this is the Momcozy carrier. I bought this carrier from Momcozy directly and it cost just £50 and that included even postage to me, which makes this an extremely budget friendly carrier. And as a result, it's probably no surprise that I get asked about this carrier loads because it's such a budget friendly price tag. So I'm going to take you through this carrier, through its pros and cons, how you can use it, and then I will talk about how it compares to other carriers on the market. So let's start from the bottom upwards. I'm going to start with this waistband, and inside the waistband we have a size adjustment system. So you can see I can pull open these poppers. There's 3 poppers in here, and so that gives me 3 setting sizes. I'm going to put this on the smallest setting so we can see how it works, but then it will grow with your baby. So as your baby grows, you can let this out so that you have 1, then 2, then 3 poppers done up. And in the manual, there is a suggestion in the manual based on the weight when to move baby up. Although, and as the manual does say, I'm trying to find the right page in the manual, it's less about weight and more about the size of the legs. So I like that. It is all about the size of the legs and less about weight, but it gives you a little bit of a guide if you're not really sure. So I've adjusted that to the smallest setting so we can see what that looks like. And then you can see this waistband is really quite wide and it's quite firmly padded. It really sort of holds its shape even when I squash it, and it's quite wide and quite deep. It's also a tapered shape, so it's deepest here where baby's bottom goes, and then it tapers, but it's still quite wide. The consequence then is if you have a smaller torso or you don't have a lot of space between ribs and hips, you might struggle to accommodate such a wide waistband. Whereas others, particularly if you've got a longer torso, might find that very supportive, very comfortable. On me, I actually really struggle to get it, because it's so unwieldy. I struggle to sort of get it tight enough that it actually really puts the weight onto my hips without feeling squeezed. So it doesn't give me the best fit, but carriers are like jeans. It will fit some people. And any carrier will fit some people and it won't fit everybody. That is quite a big waistband. So if you are considering this carrier, do consider if you have the physical landscape to accommodate such a large waistband. So then as we move up, we have the panel. The panel is made from, I am not entirely sure, I assume it's a polyester. It doesn't, in all honesty, doesn't feel like the highest quality fabric. At £50, including postage to me, I'm not expecting it to feel like the most high quality fabric. That said, it doesn't feel awful either. It's just not the nicest, softest feeling to go against newborn skin, but then this carrier isn't designed for newborns. And I certainly wouldn't have any objection putting it next to slightly older baby skin. It's just not the softest carrier in the world, but then I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be. So there's the panel, and you can see by putting it on that smaller, we've got this nice shaping, and then the panel does grow as baby grows. And then I'm going to put baby in this so we can see what it looks like as we move up. So let's put baby in here. I'm going to move up the panel. We have this part to extend the panel when baby is older, or we can fold it down and it attaches with the buttons here. And then if we look at the shoulder straps, these are more softly padded. They're not overly bulky or overly large, and they are designed to cross. So I'm going to put it over my shoulder and I'm going to come around and it plugs into here, and you can see that buckle is half hidden. So you sort of have to look for it, but it does make it look really sleek. And there's also this quite firmly padded section here, which is actually quite nice because for me, this sits over my breast tissue, over my boob, and that padding actually stops this buckle like digging or feeling uncomfortable. And that is something often parents struggle with when there's a buckle sitting there, particularly if they're breastfeeding, that can be uncomfortable. So I do like that added padding. And if I let this out, we'll do it up both sides. So this carrier is designed to cross. I can't wear it rucksack because there's no strap to wear it rucksack, so it's an obligate cross. But it does up quite easily. You just, once you've got the waistband on, just those 2 clicks, and then we can tighten as needed. And we've got the ability to tidy these up if they're really long and dangly, using the elastic. Comfort wise, it's pretty decent. It's really going to depend on how it fits you. As I discussed, the waistband's not really pulling its weight for me. As a result, this is feeling really heavy on my shoulders. But with someone who fits this waistband, that's going to feel better. That probably, will probably feel a lot better. I can get a really good fit for my baby. In terms of when you can use this carrier, so the box says from 3 months, 3 to 12 months. The manual says from 2 months, and the box also says, and the manual also says from £7. So you will be forgiven for being completely confused about when you can use this carrier, because £7 is generally birth weight for a lot of babies, not 3 to 2 months, and 3 and 2 months are not the same thing. I would say 3 months is the more accurate. If you look at my doll is the size of an average 3 to 4 month old, and my doll's only just fitting. What we're looking for in terms of fitting is that they can sit straddle without their legs being forced wide, and being able to free kick. My doll can only just about do that. So I would say 3 months is probably more accurate. I think a baby under there is probably not going to be physically able to open their legs wide enough to get in here. Likewise, if we look up here, the panel length, again, on my 3 to 4 month doll is coming to the perfect height right beneath their ear. Even with a bit of jiggling, I think you're going to struggle with panel height to fit a baby much smaller than that. So I would say 3 months, but of course, when I'm saying months, babies are all different sizes. I'm really looking for that they can sit here and they can be up there. But I would say an average 3 to 4 month old will start to fit this carrier. So this is not a carrier you can use with a newborn, but they don't advertise that you can. So I'm not holding that against them. And then they say it lasts up to 24 months. Now we know it can grow in the width and it can grow in the height. So on size, I think that's probably quite reasonable, although it is worth noting in the manual, they only show one carrying position, and that is this position, the front inwards. I think it can be most parents find it extremely uncomfortable to still be carrying a 24-month-old on their fronts. Most parents move away from front carriers somewhere between a year and 18 months. So I would struggle to see this carrier continuing to be used until 24 months, even if it's capable of it, if you are only using the front carry. They only advertise the front carry. I actually reckon you can do a hip carry with this, because it works in the same way as many carriers that do advertise a hip carry. So I think you can, while they don't advertise it, I think you can do this if it is comfortable for you. Again, that very wide waistband is now digging into my hip, which I find uncomfortable. So I personally wouldn't, but again, if you weren't having the issues with the waistband that I am, I think there's no reason you wouldn't be able to hip carry with this carrier. When it comes to a back carry, they are not recommending it because it doesn't have the strap, and kudos to them. There are carriers that don't have the strap that do recommend the back carry, and without a strap, it isn't safe. However, I think you can do it if you add your own strap, or use a shoelace or something to tie the things, and then to tie the straps so that they can't come off your shoulder. I actually tried this, and I will post some photos on my website. And actually it works really well so long as you're using a shoelace or a ribbon or your own strap. It actually works quite well. So in that way, I would expect it to get to 24 months, so long as you're happy to do it yourself, add a strap to do the back carry. So what do I think of this carrier and how does it compare to others? I think as a budget option, it's extremely good. I mean, personally, it's not the most comfortable for me. And I think probably because the design is probably not the most comfortable for everybody, but it's not uncomfortable. It's not the best feeling fabric, but if you are looking for something that is a more budget range, it's a perfectly decent carrier. It's giving a great fit for baby, it's safe. So for £50, I'm pretty happy with it. What would I recommend if you had a slightly bigger budget, or you were looking for something maybe a higher quality but looking on the second-hand market? Then I would recommend the Lenny Lamb Light. It's much softer, has a similar design, but it's much softer, much more flexible, will work from newborn to 24 months, will offer all of those positions, but without all the caveats I did and without you having to add an extra strap. Yeah, just much softer, much more flexible, and just fits a wider range of people because it doesn't feel as solid. You know, it feels more adaptable to different shapes and sizes, and is easier to adjust. So my recommendation would be the Lenny Lamb Light. People often ask me this in conjunction with the Artipoppe. They've seen the Artipoppe and they note that this has quite a similar overall look to the Artipoppe carrier, and wonder about this as a more budget version. And actually a lot of the criticism I have levelled against this carrier in terms, was it criticism? Anyway, in terms of like needing an extra strap for the back carry, the hip carry not being so comfortable, actually it's all the same as the Artipoppe, except the Artipoppe is a lot more expensive. I'd say if you are going pure for the looks and that sort of clean finish, then yeah, this is a great alternative to the Artipoppe. Does it feel like an Artipoppe? Absolutely no. The material feels really very different. The Artipoppe feels really high quality and a lot like a really posh curtain, to be honest. Whereas this does feel quite a bit cheaper and just does feel like quite, you know, like cheap synthetic fabric you might find on a cheap cushion that you picked up off of Primark, versus like a really expensive curtain, high quality finishing sort of fabric, which is more what the Artipoppe feels like. I have to say most people that come in looking for an Artipoppe do go away with the Lenny Lamb Light, which is the other carrier I mentioned, just because that retails for 120 to 140 depending on the pattern, and is a really, really high quality carrier. So maybe is a great in between if you're sort of between like, do I spend all the money on an Artipoppe or do I go for something much cheaper like the Momcozy? But if you are looking for something on a lower budget, then you could do a lot worse than the Momcozy. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions about any of this or how it compares to anything else, please do put them in the comments below. And as ever, if this has been helpful, please do like and subscribe. All the best.